If you are searching for silence, this car is not for you. Abarth, punto. More power to your senses. Abarth, a world of empowerment.
In the first video, I covered the AGP and the Assesse version, the first incarnation of the abarth punto. As mentioned, there are two models to consider, and in this video I will be covering the abarth punto Evo and of course its variants, of which there are two. Built between 2010 and 2014, the Evo was essentially a facelifted model, as opposed to a complete new redesign. Having said that, and although it shared exactly the same body shell, of which all the panels and doors are interchangeable between this and the earlier abarth Gran Punto, everything beyond this has been redesigned. The new Evo model was now offered in four colours: Campovolo Grey, the standard abarth colour, not offered on the AGP in the UK, Velocity Red, don't get this confused with the red on the AGP which was Speed Red, Scorpion Black and 1949 White. So let's explore the differences first. Well, externally, these are instantly recognisable by the front and rear end. The front is now more aggressive, incorporating intakes and vents, albeit the side ones are fake, but it still adds to the look. If we move around the back, the rear bumper now has a larger and more pronounced rear diffuser, again with side vents. Some prefer this, while others prefer the simple, less fussy design of the original. The other noticeable difference is the location of the abarth shield, which on the Gran Punto is above the waistline on the rear quarter, whereas the Evo wears it below the waistline. To the rear, redesigned taillights, a larger rear boot spoiler and the operation of the tailgate from pressing the badge are all subtle but effective changes. If we move around to the front, it becomes more obvious what changes have taken place. The bonnet is the same shape, but beyond that the changes are very different. In fact, on first inspection it would appear the headlights are the same, but rest assured they are very different and slightly different shape. The front badge is now a shield as opposed to the round badge on the AGP and sits on a slim vented front whisker. The other visible difference is the body kit. The arches and side skirts are the same as on the AGP, but on the Evo these are now colour coded. The Evo also came with new redesigned alloy wheels, known as claws, representing the claws of the Scorpion. These were again 17-inch diamond cut with 215/45/17 tyres. Braking was the same 4-pot Brembos up front, sharing the same size discs of 305/28mm. Again, all braking components are compatible between models. Suspension is also shared across both models with stiffer springs, roll bars and independent rear suspension. So now we come on to the biggest difference and the most significant changes between the two, and that is the engine and gearbox. The Evo has an all-new 6-speed gearbox known as the C635, as opposed to the Gran Punto's M32 box. Ratios are slightly taller on the Evo box, and this is because of the all-new award-winning multi-air engine, which instantly won Best New Engine 2010. Delivering 10% more power and 15% more torque at an even lower RPM, all from the same displacement of 1.4. So how does this engine differ from the one in the T-Jet? Well, the bottom end is an identical 1368cc displacement and both share the same internals, but the magic is in the all-new intake valve system known as the multi-air system. Whereas the T-Jet has a conventional twin-cam arrangement with fixed duration and lift from both cams, the multi-air engine only uses a fixed cam for the exhaust side, but the inlet operation is controlled by the multi-air unit. So how does the multi-air unit work? The multi-air system is elegantly simple. A high-response electro-hydraulic actuator or solenoid controls the pressure applied to hydraulic fluid, engine oil drawn from the sump. That fills a thin passageway that connects the intake valve to the camshaft. The solenoid valve regulates the amount of oil that is pumped by the cam action, either to the valve or a bypass reservoir. This electro-hydraulic link allows independent operation of the two components, which enables near real-time control over the valve lift profiles and duration, essentially a VVT engine. So what does this mean? Well, this multi-air engine now develops 163 bhp at 5,500 rpm over the T-Jet's 155 bhp, but torque has now gone up 15% to 250 Newton meters compared to the T-Jet's 230, but more importantly, this peak torque is now reached at only 2,250 rpm compared to the T-Jet's 3,000 rpm. All Evos now have the stop-start technology, but to be honest, this is very hit and miss, but can be turned off with a button on the dash. But be warned, this is reset each time the engine is restarted. The Evo now has the Garrett 1446 turbo shared across all Evo models, with boost now raised to 1.5 bar instead of the 1.3 bar of the IHI turbo in the AGP. Inside, the Evo has received an all-new redesigned interior with textured dash incorporating sportier Jaeger dials, and the sport button has now been replaced with a lever situated forward of the gear lever. Seats are similar to those in the AGP, but are now available with half leather bolsters and Sportex fabric. The Evo also has Fiat's Blue & Me technology, but don't expect great things from this, and as for playing music through your smartphone, that will be a no, but an adapter is available. So let's come on to the options. Again, I'm only going to cover the most desirable options. The Sky Dome was an option at £800 and is quite desirable now, although not a great deal were optioned new. Again, as with the AGP, the sporty Sabelt Corsa seats were now a cheaper option than on the AGP at only £1,000 compared to the £2,250 on the AGP. These were also available in leather for £1,700, so you will find more Evos fitted with these than the AGP. Again, quite desirable on the second-hand market. The Evo came with the all-new claw alloy wheels, with the same option for the twin-spoke winter wheel available for the AGP. Again, these were an additional £175. Another popular option was the dual climate control, which came in at £266. A choice of red or black abarth side stripes and matching mirror covers were also offered at £200. Another option that seems quite popular even now was the centre armrest, which some argue makes gear changes an awkward reach and in the way of the handbrake. Nevertheless, this was available for an additional £175. Again, check out my website for a full list of options. So let's move on to sales. The second generation Abarth Punto was doomed in terms of sales. Again, poor marketing gave way to the more popular Abarth 500 range, and Abarth invested heavily into this ever-popular Super Mini, leaving the Punto trailing in its shadows. This was reflected in the poor sales, which peaked at their highest of only 323 models sold by 2014, not counting the Supersport, which I will come on to a bit later, compared to the popular Abarth 500 range reaching 4,600 sales in the same year, and this is not counting the many variations, including 595 and 695, etc. So this makes the Abarth Punto a very rare car indeed. As with the AGP, Abarth offered the Assesse kit from new, with the same limitations that applied. It had to be fitted within 12 months or 12,000 miles by the dealer. Again, this improved performance, raising the bhp to 180 from the 163 standard, and torque was raised to 270 Newton meters in sport mode, but this was achieved at an instant 2,250 rpm, some 500 rpm lower than the AGP Assesse's 2,750 rpm, so clearly power was delivered sooner in the multi-air engine. So is this the same kit as the AGP Assesse? In a word, no. Because the Evo already had the hardware associated with the transformation of the AGP, like the Garrett 1446 Turbo, manifold, cat and various sundries, This only required an ECU reflash to 180 bhp, done at the dealers. The kit still included the BMC free flow filter, larger exhaust and the 7.5 by 18 inch Assesse rims, again available in white or titanium finish. The biggest difference between the AGP Assesse kit and the Evo kit was the better suspension and braking upgrade in the form of Koni FSD shocks, which stood for frequently selective damping, along with 25mm lower and stiffer springs and the addition of floating two-piece Brembo discs, again the same 305mm diameter, normally associated with much more powerful machinery. These prevented less brake fade and the potential for warping than on standard drilled single-piece discs, restricting the heat transfer much better. Along with the Koni FSD shocks, this setup gave the Evo Assesse a much more planted feel than the AGP Assesse. The cost of the Evo Assesse kit was slightly cheaper than on the AGP, at £3,000, as opposed to £3,370 for the AGP. Again, owing to the initial cost of £16,857 for the basic Evo, not many Assesse kits were fitted, and just like on the AGP, only a small number of Evo Assesses are left on the UK roads. In fact, they are rarer, at around only 25 left, and as for performance and handling specification, this is the best model to aim for. The only problem when looking for an Evo Assesse is validating its authenticity, which I will explain. With the AGP Assesse, if no paperwork is present, but it still has all the correct badges and wheels, you only have to look at the turbo housing, which should say Garrett 1446, as the AGP Assesse had an upgrade turbo from the standard IHI. But this is made more difficult with the Evo Assesse, owing to the fact that all Evo models already had the Garrett turbo. The other and opposite problem are the fitment of the two-piece floating discs. Because these cost an eye-watering £650 to replace, many Evo Assesse owners simply could not afford or justify their replacement, and therefore resulted in fitting standard single-piece discs back on, so throwing up uncertainty as to its authenticity by potential buyers. So how do you tell? Well, in short, there is no guarantee, but if you are set on originality, then look for one with stamped paperwork to be 100% sure. As for prices, I will be covering all this, the market and what to look for when buying in my next video. So now we come on to the first production variation of the Evo, the Supersport. Launched in 2012, the Supersport was limited to 199 units, but actually only sold 144. It came with a Supersport badge on the tailgate and one on the centre console. Externally, the bodywork remained the same as the standard Evo, but the Supersport now came with 180 bhp straight out the box, with the addition of the larger exhaust and BMC free flow filter from the Assesse kit. The Supersport, however, only came with standard suspension and discs, but buyers could still purchase the Assetto Corsa kit, which made the Supersport a full Assesse spec. The Supersport was also offered with a number of unique upgrades not offered on the standard Evo, the first of which was the addition of satin black claw alloys instead of the diamond cut ones, at an additional £175. Also the option of Abarth's famous heritage stripes. These comprised of matte black bonnet and roof with colour-coded vinyl strips on top at a hefty price of £950, giving the Supersport a much meaner look. Again, all four colours were offered with the heritage pack. The other upgrade for the first time was the addition of yellow calipers at £100. And of course the upgraded Corsa seats by Sabelt were also offered for an additional £1,000, or £1,700 if you wanted the leather ones. Today the Supersport is quite sought after, with only around 128 left on UK roads. We now come on to the last incarnation of the Evo, the Scorpione. The Scorpione edition was unveiled at the Bologna Motor Show in 2011 and marketed in May 2012. It had a difficult transition into the UK. Only 199 Scorpiones were to be built worldwide and originally not destined for the UK market due to homologation regulations, as the Scorpione was fitted with a full Assesse kit from the factory, technically making this a modified car. It is also the only model to have the Sabelt Corsa seats fitted from the factory as standard, with a yellow Abarth logo and matte black backs, with matte black matching mirror covers. Abarth then decided to build 20 right-hand drive Scorpiones, 10 for the South African market and 10 for the UK market. All were factory order only. To get around the regulations, Abarth had to register the Scorpione as the first owner before shipping to the UK, making this technically a second-hand car. But the timing could not have been worse, as around the same time Abarth UK lifted the homologation restriction. So Abarth UK was left with trying to sell them, being that the factory had registered them first all in December 2012, with some not being registered in the UK until 2014, but they still had to carry a 2012 related registration. The other sour point was that the warranty started when they were registered in Italy, so some owners lost out on nearly 2 years warranty before they had taken delivery. A PR disaster, with the original price of the Scorpione at $23,500, the last few were discounted down to just over $18,000 to move them on. Nevertheless, the Scorpione is considered very desirable, and each Scorpione is recorded by Abarth and can be registered by the owner through their cars of special interest on the official Abarth website. It is now rumoured that there are only 9 left of the original 10 in the UK. So what makes the Scorpione any different from any other variation? Well, technically it is the same as the 180 bhp Evo Assesse, being the only model to have the full Assesse kit fitted from the factory. But the Scorpione has a few unique features. It had no options from the factory. All were in Scorpion black only, and all wore the Abarth heritage stripes, but these were painted on using a special process as opposed to vinyl. All came with the Assesse 18-inch rims and yellow calipers, but these were now painted in gloss black. Inside, the Scorpione came with unique logoed overmats. There were no external badges to identify it, and again, just like the Assesse, these were not recognised by DVLA or appeared on the logbook. So how can you tell if it's a genuine Scorpione? Well, on first glances it's quite difficult, as some black Evo Assesse models had the heritage stripes, and owners changed the colour of the rims to black. But there are only 3 distinct ways to tell. The first is the absence of cruise control. All Evos came with cruise control except the Scorpione. The second is the heritage stripes. If you run your hands across the bonnet, you will feel no raised lines between the matte and the gloss, whereas the vinyl kit applied to the Super Sport is vinyl coloured strips layered on matte black, painted bonnet and roof, leaving an edge between the two. The third and foolproof way is to enter the chassis number into the Abarth Heritage Register. For more info, head over to my website, and don't forget to join the Abarth Punto Collective on Facebook.